Alright. Had the idea for doing this video for a while. It's one of those in the past that I'd have done from behind the camera, but thought I may as well be on camera at this point. Don't mind the fleece, just finished their shift at co-op, so... Anyway, should we have a look at the video? So thanks to the Libertines archive, full of great videos on this channel. We've got a multi-camera view of Pete's drop, as they've put it, from Brixton in 2004. The description says, the infamous gig when Peter had a bit of a strop, ran off stage into the night, only to be caught by Alan McGee security men and brought back into the venue to continue the show. Peter apparently thought that Carl looked at him funny during Can't Stand Me Now, telling as to how high tensions were running at the time. Peter returns to the biggest cheers of the night, much to Carl's annoyance, I'm sure, with a bloody self-inflicted chest wound. Well, I'm going to look at Pete and Carl's take on it via the books after the video, but let's watch it first, shall we? I suppose a bit of an intro. This is like 2004, the biggest gigs had done at this point, the Libertines, that had been set up by the manager at the time, Alan McGee. But yeah, anyway, let's watch it. Tops off. Got to rewatch that sprint. I mean, that is mad. I mean, you'd be like on the edge of your seat watching that at the gig, wouldn't you? Always good, like just a bit of like what seems genuine kind of passion, but just maybe overflowing there. But yeah, just need to rewatch this one at the end. Literally sprint into the night. When she was trying to spot the look that Carl supposedly gives him. Loving this multi-view. It's like Sky Sports or something. But where's the trigger point here? That's when he loses it. Just a bit of rock and roll first of all, smashing his guitar. Right, I mean, I guess you got to ask yourself, where is Pete going? So at this point, we can consult the book. Obviously, it's well known that tensions were high at this point anyway, but quite bizarre, the idea that he'd run off from the gig. So let's see what they say. So I'll start with Pete's book, but I'll keep the video running while I read this just to keep you, engaged. So yeah, Pete's tale of what happened was, so this is from his Likely Lad book. I've consulted it quite a few times on the channel. But anyway, yeah. So he says, hats off to Alan McGee for stepping in and trying to make a go of things and getting those gigs done. He hired these two 6'6" twins to look after me and Carl and make sure we behaved. Michael and Jeff, they'd done security for Iron Maiden for 20 years. Michael came to pick me up from the Whitechapel flat for one of the nights at Brixton. I was with Neil Thunders and some girls and I said, they're all coming with me. And he said, no, they're not. I said, what are you talking about? It's my gig. He said, look, I'm getting paid to take you. And he carried me down out of the flat, into the car, and into the venue. Halfway through the set, I thought, nah, that's not right. And I started cutting myself up on stage. I had a razor blade in my pocket. And then I kicked over John's amp, Ash on John, ran off stage and out of the venue and legged it down Brixton High Street. Daft. I made it to Stockwell Park Road, past the skateboard park. And then Michael, who was chasing me, caught up. He picked me up and said, if you don't finish the gig, we've been told we don't get paid. Put me under his arm, carried me back to the venue and put me back on stage. I had this feeling that the people in the crowd would understand how I was feeling. Automatically, telepathically. So when I got back on, I was like, do you understand what I mean? It's my gig. I can invite who I want. Thousands of people were just shouting and throwing things. But yeah, as I mentioned in the description for this video, I do remember in a previous book that Pete mentioned that he didn't like the way Carl looked at him or something, and that's what triggered it. But he doesn't seem to mention that in the Likely Lad book. But yeah, should we get Carl's take on it? This is a bit of a longer excerpt, I think. Gives a bit more of an insight, a bit more context to what was going on at the time. But yeah, Carl says in his book, Threepenny Memoir, The Lies of a Libertine, I'll never forget Peter fleeing the stage when we'd sold out 3 nights at Brixton Academy. We were playing at a good tilt, but our much touted camaraderie was a sham that night, and underneath we were fighting, fucking it up. Peter and I exchanged glances and then he just took off running. Later he'd tell me that I looked at him funny, and that might have been true, but not enough to take him off into the streets of South London. Our two bodyguards, twin brothers Jeff and Michael, were there in the wings. They'd worked with Biohazard for a while, and it showed. Jeff looked a bit like Popeye's Bluto, which I always found quite reassuring for some reason. And they were both stacked, huge, muscular, massive, and wide. Both tattooed from their necks to their shins. They were from Oxford and they were very gentlemanly, very proud to be English, a real oasis of calm backstage, sipping their tea. I think their dad is from Africa, and their mum is a lovely little Geordie lady who I've met, and they were terrifyingly good at their jobs. They went with me into Dirty Pretty Things for a while, mainly because I liked having them around. Jeff and Michael were a great wall between Peter and the world, such an immediate deterrent that usually people didn't even try to get close. They were incredibly quick too. More than once someone lunged for Peter, and I include myself in that, but they didn't try and stop me, thankfully. It would have been like seeing a big dog wrestle a chew toy. And on one occasion, when somebody had a half-hearted go at him, one of the brothers just shot out this mighty fist. Though it was genuinely a blare, it seemed to land almost gently, more like a push, and this guy just went up in the air and over like a well-struck skittle. It was incredible. So Peter was running headlong into the back streets of Brixton, all churning legs and a pork pie hat, and his security was chasing after him, which must have dazed passers-by like seeing lights in the sky he can't explain. I have no idea where Peter was going. I doubt he did either. And they rounded a corner and some skanky crackhead who must have thought Peter had robbed a shop stuck his foot out trying to trip Jeff up. Honour amongst thieves and all that. And Jeff, without breaking his stride, gave him a little body check and bounced him off about 3 walls. I bet he didn't know what hit him, literally. It was strange, though. There was no malice or premeditation. Jeff was just protecting his charge. In Peter's case, there was a lot of protecting to do. While Jeff and Peter were doing circuits of South London's least salubrious neighbourhood, and the crackhead was rolling around in the gutter, we, the remaining Libertines, were debating going back on stage. We were getting increasingly used to making shitty, agonising decisions such as whether to go back on stage, a man down or not. Even if he had run off and was disappearing more and more, Peter was still an integral part of the band. Eventually we decided to get it together and go back on, reasoning that the gig was sold out, and that until Peter scarpered, we were having a suitable degree of fun. Back on stage, we were playing the songs, hoping the audience was appreciating what we were doing and how difficult it must have been for us. And suddenly there was this big roar. We were made up. Then I turned around and Peter's back on stage. He must have tired himself out running. We were hardly in our prime physically. Then heard on Jeff's radio that we were about to go back on and decided that he wanted to be there too. I was pretty crestfallen, to be honest. There we were, trying to hold it together, maintain what little dignity the Libertines had left. And the biggest cheer of the night is Peter deigning to come back and play with us. Someone told me later that they thought it was funny, but it wasn't funny. Then Calder's going to talk about playing without Pete in general, really, and how hard it was. But I guess that's for another video. But yeah, should we see the aftermath in this video? Literally wandering around without Pete there, knowing that he's gone somewhere else. Just like trying to like crack on with it. Must be quite a strange experience. I'm giving it a go on purpose. I guess as a fan, like, if you're watching this and Pete's done one halfway through the gig, I mean, you would be like on your edge of your seat, really, wouldn't you? Like, it's undeniably quite an exciting experience, I suppose. Putting aside all the feelings that must be at stake with the band itself. But yeah, I'd be interested to know if anyone was actually at this gig. Like, get in the comments what it was actually like, kind of thing. What was it? What the atmosphere was like. Multicam's that. There it is. Just cracking on with it. What can you say next, Matthew? No real communication going on. I never leave you. Sorry about that, mate.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna stop. Do you know what I mean?
Don't know if that was audible, but he said, sorry about that. I had a bit of a strop. Do you know what I mean? What's he going to say here?
Where are you?
Now he's trying to get people on stage or something. You can see the effects of the razor blade. So he's back for the last song, I presume. I Get Along usually was the last song at this point. Well, that's the end of the video. So yeah, I mean, quite intense watching it. I mean, it must be mad for the rest of the band when you're playing a sold out gig and your co-frontman just runs off. But in terms of being in the crowd, I mean, must have been a unique experience. It's all very raw, isn't it? And authentic, I guess. Like, you're not. It's definitely unique to other bands, I'd say. But yeah, I might dive into Carl's thoughts about playing without Pete in another video. This just before Pete was kicked out again, I think. But yeah, were you there? What was it like? And what do you think of it generally watching it back? Do you feel for either of them, or was it just par for the course? Have you say in those comments?